Because a house always wins. Play long enough, you never change the stakes. The house takes you. Unless, when that perfect hand comes along, you bet big, and then you take the house.
Hey, Chicago. Want to meet a true gem and a secret of our city? He has over 30 million frequent flyer miles. He has more numbers than a CIA, and he's seen more countries than American Airlines. Meet your hometown guy, a man with a good heart, a man who is passionate about life. Live life in the fast lane with Steve Rothstein. Only here for how many hours, Steve, total?
Almost 24 hours.
4 hours, excellent.
Fantastic.
So we flew 8 hours one way and 8 hours back, but this is worth it. This is your life, this fast thing. Chicago, London, Chicago? Get ready. It's going to be a whirlwind of a ride. These people look American. Are you American? And if so, are you from Chicago?
Long before the digital era of online bookings or scanning a barcode on your phone, a select group of airline ticket holders had a remarkably simple way to fly. They just called a special number for American Airlines Platinum Executive Reservations Team. No ID was needed to book a flight or to check in at the airport. It was back in the good old days when you could board a plane without showing any ID or security screening. And as you'll see, this seemingly minor detail would later play a pivotal role in the legal drama that would unfold over 25 years. It all started out 4 decades ago in the greatest of all decades, the 1980s, when 66 lucky bastards managed to snag the most amazing travel deal in the history of travel, courtesy of American Airlines. Dubbed the Unlimited A-Air Pass, for a one-time fee of $250,000, over $800,000 in today's money, you could buy unlimited first-class travel on American Airlines for life. Yes, first class, and yes, for life. Additionally, for just another measly $150,000, an additional companion pass could be purchased. The companion pass allowed the pass holder to bring anyone or anything along for the ride. That's right, you could take your wife or your girlfriend or your wife's girlfriend, or maybe just somebody you met on the way to the airport. Or you could take your briefcase, a birdcage, or even a badger if you were fond of badgers. Between 1981 and 1988, the 66 affluent passengers purchased these golden air tickets, which netted the cash-strapped airline a much-needed $16.5 million in cash. That's equivalent to almost $50 million in today's money. Some famous early pass holders included Dell Computer founder Michael Dell, Major League Baseball Hall of Famer Willie Mays, and Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban loves to tell the story of his greatest purchase to this day.
So for $125,000, I bought 125,000 miles for me and somebody else for the rest of my life. And so this is what it looks like. And I used to be able to just, literally, I would go out with friends and we'd go, go drink in LA, fly in Vegas, fly somewhere else, let's go to Moscow. Okay, let's go to Moscow.
Then about 10 years after first issuing the pass in 1990, American Airlines bumped that price up to $600,000, about $1.4 million today, and then about $1.1 million in 1993, which is about $2.2 million today. However, the unlimited air pass had an obvious and quite fatal flaw. A fatal flaw that was seen by everyone. Well, everyone except American Airlines executives, that is. It was such a good deal for flyers, in fact, that it ended up costing American Airlines tens of millions of dollars per year. So much so that it would bring the once world's largest airline to the brink of financial ruin. Before deregulation and breaking up of the airline monopoly, the Big Four as they were known, American, United, TWA, and Eastern Airlines accounted for 80% of the market share in the U.S. for decades. But after the U.S. government broke up the Big Four in 1978 through deregulation, the floodgates opened to dozens of low-budget air carriers. This sudden tidal wave of competition hurt the Big Four, and American Airlines was hit the hardest. So, in the wide-open skies of the mid-1980s, American Airlines was struggling to stay in business. As early as 1980, just 2 years into deregulation, American posted a $76 million loss and was grappling with the new low-cost competition. However, undaunted, the airline's newly elected president, Robert Crandall, was on a mission to slice American Airlines down to the bone and lead a massive expansion from the ground up. But American Airlines desperately needed cash. However, interest rates in the 80s were at a record high. So the masterminds at American Airlines came up with a plan that wouldn't involve the banks to avoid high interest rates on a loan. They came up with a genius plan to raise capital from their own customer base by selling its wealthiest customers the ultimate travel perk. And that's when they came up with the Willy Wonka golden ticket for airlines, an ultimate first-class ticket for life. At the time, American President Crandall said the idea was that firms would buy them for their top performers. But as usual, the public is way smarter than any corporation. He said people immediately figured out we'd made a mistake pricing-wise. And boy howdy did they ever. Another American Airlines executive said we thought only CEOs and celebrities would bite. Maybe a dozen people at most. We needed cash fast, and this seemed like easy money. And again, boy were they wrong. The unlimited air pass attracted a rare breed of people who saw the pass not as a luxury, but as an opportunity, and a relatively cheap one at that. Especially considering that in 1987, a new Gulfstream jet would set you back about $14 million. Yeah, $250K was a steal. Plus the $150K to buy an extra seat was just icing on the cake. However, of the dozens of golden tickets sold, there were two men in particular who were street-smart, visionary wise guys who turned their golden tickets into never-ending fountains of golden champagne and caviar dreams. And those men were Steve Rothstein and Jack Vroom. Seriously, with a name like Vroom, he was born to fly free first class for life. Steve Rothstein, or Rothstein, however you pronounce it, a Chicago investment banker, was already one of American Airlines' top flyers when he was approached to buy the Air Pass in the early 80s. Rothstein said American contacted me and said that based on the amount I traveled, the Air Pass would be a great purchase. He said it was like a bond. Instead of paying me dividends in cash, they were paying dividends in air travel. They needed the cash and they could pay me in miles. So for a total of $383,000, Rothstein purchased both the Air Pass and Companion Pass. And over the next 25 years, he proceeded to book more than 10,000 flights. He took hundreds of trips to New York City, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. He went to London sometimes a dozen times per month. He flew to Ontario just for a sandwich, or Tokyo literally for a walk in the park. On one occasion, he'd offer his companion pass to complete strangers at the airport. After all, Rothstein said the contract was truly unlimited, so why not use it as intended? Steve's wife, Nancy, said he was someone who got on a plane like most people get on a bus. And for his forking out the special air pass money, that would turn out to be a no-brainer, despite its initial high cost. Meanwhile, over in Texas in 1990, a direct marketing catalog consultant and a mountain of a man by the name of Jack Vroom also decided to shell out the now $400,000 for an Air Pass and Companion Pass. Vroom said, I never bought anything for $400,000 in my life, but I took out a loan for 12% for 5 years and did it because I thought it would give me a competitive advantage for life. Over the next 2 decades, Vroom flew an average of 2 million miles per year. He used his pass to catch all of his son's football games on the East Coast. He popped over to France or London just to have lunch with a friend. When his daughter had a middle school project on South American culture, of course, he took her to Buenos Aires to see a rodeo and then flew back the next day. Like Rothstein, Vroom trusted the sanctity of the contract he signed with American Airlines. He said they used the word unlimited and lifetime. He says, and then the mother bleepers took it all away. The two men took different approaches to their lifetime passes. Vroom was strategic while Rothstein was a bit whimsical. By 2008, Vroom had flown nearly 40 million miles. And he had a side hustle too, using the companion ticket for business deals. Jack knew the system. He'd book flights he never planned to take, use upgrades, and according to American, he even sold companion seats. And Vroom recalls, that's where the trouble began. Using his first-class Air Pass, Rothstein would travel multiple times every month. Between 1987 and 2008, he took around 10,000 flights, averaging out at 476 per year, more than one flight every day. And the full cost of every flight he took was absorbed by the initial cost of the Air Pass. In an interview, Rothstein would later explain that he had only ever been given one rule by American Airlines when he bought his pass. When I bought the Air Pass, in no uncertain terms, they told me that there was only one rule, which was that I couldn't give the Air Pass to anybody. And those were the days before they took identification from passengers, he said. When a work colleague at his investment bank offered him $5,000 per week to use the pass, Rothstein refused, instead keeping to the rule the airline had set out for him. With his immensely prolific use of the Air Pass between 1987 and 2008, Rothstein is reported to have cost American Airlines an estimated $21 million in revenue that it could have otherwise made by selling the first-class seats he booked. Hey, American Airlines should have thought of that before. Every single one of Rothstein's flight reservations was made using the dedicated American Airlines Platinum Executive Reservation line, and Rothstein himself became a familiar voice at the end of the telephone to those who worked at the carrier. Over the course of 21 years, Rothstein took 1,000 flights to New York City, 500 to San Francisco, 500 to Los Angeles, 500 to London, 100 to Tokyo, 80 to Paris, 80 to Sydney, 50 to Hong Kong, and roughly 7,000 flights to destinations across the rest of the world. Then, after 2 decades of free first-class flights, millions of free miles worth tens of millions of dollars, suddenly and without warning, American Airlines pulled the plug on both Rothstein and Vroom. Bridget Cade was a member of American Airlines' elite revenue integrity team. She was charged with rooting out passengers, travel agents, and others suspected of cheating the airline. Her first big job was to investigate the AirPass users. As a result, after 28 years, finally somebody at the airline discovered just how much the AirPass program was costing the company. So Cade was assigned to find out whether any AirPass holders were violating the rules, starting with those who flew the most. She pulled the years of flight records for Rothstein and Vroom and calculated that each was costing American Airlines more than $1 million a year. Rothstein, she found, would sometimes pick out strangers at the airport and give them surprise first-class upgrades with his companion pass. Once, he flew a woman he just met in New Delhi to Chicago, a lift American later valued at nearly $7,500. There was nothing in the AirPass terms prohibiting that, but Cade considered the habit striking in light of something else she found. Rothstein made 3,009 reservations in less than 4 years, almost always booking 2 seats, but canceled 2,523 of them. To Cade, this was evidence that Rothstein reserved flights he never intended to take. It also allowed him to hold seats until the last minute and offer them to strangers, she said later in court, preventing American Airlines from selling them. Cade decided this was fraud and grounds for revocation. On December 13, 2008, Rothstein and a companion checked in at Chicago O'Hare International Airport for a transatlantic flight. An American employee handed him a letter which said his AirPass had been terminated for fraudulent behavior. He apologized to his friend and filed suit in Illinois the following March. Vroom's travel history told a different story. Cade found that time and time again he booked trips with people he'd never flown with before, traveling round trip to Japan or Europe without even staying overnight. We suspect he's selling his AirPass companion tickets, she said. That was against the rules. Vroom landed at Heathrow that morning as he boarded American Flight 50 from Dallas-Fort Worth to London the evening before. Security officers took note of the clothes he was wearing down to the Crocs on his feet. Inside Heathrow, Vroom headed for the VIP lounge where an American employee handed him a letter and said he could never fly again on the airline. Vroom was shocked, unable to believe that his golden ticket was gone. Upon the withdrawal of his AirPass, Rothstein sued American Airlines for breach of contract and claimed damages of $7 million. He argued that American Airlines had waived its right to enforce the contract by acquiescing to his booking patterns and not cracking down on his actions sooner. Good thinking. He added that the carrier had breached the terms of the AirPass agreement by withdrawing it without notice and terminating its lifelong benefits. In the ensuing legal action and the investigation that followed, it emerged that Rothstein had either canceled or no-showed for 84% of the reservations he made between May of 2005 and December of 2008. The airline also alleged that he had used his AirPass to make companion reservations for at least 41 flights between December 2003 and April 2004 without ever taking them, leaving empty seats on airplanes. According to another court document, American contended that out of 3,009 flights booked from August of 2006 to November 2008, 14 were considered fraudulent under the airline's terms. However, Rothstein argued that American had condoned his booking companion seats under fictitious names for years. He also argued that every single reservation he ever made was placed directly with a paid American Airlines employee, and that at no time had any related concerns or misgivings been raised with him. As for Jack Vroom, he immediately countersued the airline, arguing that the rule went into effect after he purchased his lifetime pass and had no legal effect. He also sued the airline for slander by bringing his name into disrepute in the eyes of the public. In the end, Rothstein and Vroom both filed lawsuits against American Airlines for the wrongful termination of their contracts, but were outmatched by the airline's armada of lawyers. Then, in 2011, American filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy, catapulting them into an indefinite legal limbo, since which both parties and the airline have gone their separate ways. The case has never been officially resolved. Neither Rothstein nor Vroom have recovered their air pass. A third customer also had his pass revoked. However, the other 25 passes, including Mark Cuban's, are still valid.